This is the second in the series of National 5 Maths percentages videos. Okay, so the first video was on revision, just some basic how to find a percentage with or without a calculator, and also expressing one number as a percentage of another. In this video, we will do a little bit more revision on some things that you should know, but then we do get into a bit more of the sort of nitty-gritty National 5 maths. Okay, so in this video, first of all, our learning intention, we will have a percentage increase / decrease. So that should be revision. You should be able to take a number and increase or decrease it by a percentage. Very straightforward process that we will cover in not too much detail. We'll do one example and then move on. Okay, then we have percentage profit and loss. Again, it's sort of intrinsically linked. Not a massive part of the National 5 course, but you do need to understand the terms profit and loss and know if something is a profit or if it is a loss and calculate that and as a percentage. And finally, the definite National 5 material, appreciation and depreciation, and we'll define what those terms mean. As the same as the last video, you should have a calculator for this. You will be able to do some of this non-calculator, but in the exam you will tend, most of the time, percentages questions will come up in paper 2, because then you can ask some slightly more meaningful questions. If you have a calculator, you can do a bit more interesting analysis rather than the non-calculator questions. Okay, so let's get into it with example 1, which is on percentage increase and decrease. So I tried to take a reasonably contemporary example. The numbers here I've taken from the Traffic Scotland website and some statistics I took from The Guardian, so they are reasonably up to date. So we've got the number of cars on the M8 motorway decreased by 70% from March to April 2020. So again, that's an approximate figure. Across the UK, it's round about 70% everywhere. I couldn't find exact statistics for the M8 motorway from Glasgow to Edinburgh, but we'll take those as roughly accurate figures. Okay, so again, taken from the Traffic Scotland website, the average daily vehicles in March was 144,106. Again, that was 2018 data. I couldn't find up to date 2019 or 2020 data, but we'll try and make our examples as real life and as accurate as possible, so we'll go with these numbers. So what we need to do is calculate the average daily number of vehicles in April. Okay, so essentially we have the number in March, we know how much it decreased by, so how much was it in April? Okay, so first of all, we need to know what increase decrease means. So obviously increase is if it goes up and decrease is if it goes down. Now that might seem very straightforward, but you do need to know those terms. The question, the context will not tell you if you need to add on or if you need to subtract from something. If you need to find a larger or a smaller number, you need to understand that context. Okay, so that is what we have here. So how would we do this? Well, if we had that it decreased by 70% and it was 144,106, it looks like we're going to have to find out what 70% of 144,106 is. And then if we know how much it is decreased, we just need to take it away because it's going down the way. So let's start off with that. So our solution, we're going to find 70% of 144,106. And you should be ahead of me here with your calculator. Okay, in the last video, we showed how to do that. Now, 70% is a nice round percentage. You could find 10%, multiply it by 7, then take it away, and that would work. But we have our calculator here, so let's just do it the way that we did there. So let's find 1% first. So 1%, we're going to take 144,106, and we're going to divide it by 100. Okay, again, we should be able to divide by 100 reasonably easily. Let's just move our figures 2 places to the right. So that's going to be 1441.06. Now, don't be worried about the decimal places at this point in time. We'll worry about rounding and things like that at the end. We have 1%, but we're looking for 70%. So we're going to multiply both sides here by 70. Okay, so therefore 70% of 144,106 calculator on, 1441.06 multiply by 70 gives us, it'll give us a fraction at first. Press the SD button and it gives us this number. So we have, that is 100,874.2. So 100,874.2. Now we're talking about the number of cars here. Can we have a decimal number of cars? Can we have 0.2 cars? No, we can't, but we're just going to leave it there for now. We could round it at this point, and thinking ahead, it wouldn't make a difference to the answer, but you only really want to round at the very end if possible. If you've got an answer on your calculator, leave it there. Your calculator's clever, it can remember that. Okay, so let's do the last step. We're not looking for how much did it fall by, we're looking for the average daily number of vehicles in April. So we're going to have to take the amount that it's decreased, and we're going to have to subtract that from the March figure. So for April, we're going to take the number in March, which was 144,106, subtract 100,874.2. Again, we could do that in our heads, but we have a calculator in front of us, so why not use it? Subtract. I'm just going to subtract the answer there, because again, my calculator's clever and it remembers it. And that gives us an answer of 43,231, so that's 43,231.8. Now, as we said, this is the number of vehicles. Same way that you couldn't have 0.2 vehicles, you can't have 0.8 vehicles, so let's just round that to the nearest whole number, because vehicles needs to be a whole number. So that's going to be 43,231, and it's the number of vehicles. So let's just put vehicles on the end there. Okay, so that is our first example. That is how you do percentage increase and decrease. So you find the percentage of the total and then you add or subtract it to their original number, depending on the context of the question. So it's always important to pick out that information and make sure you reread the question again at the end. Okay, so that is how we do example 1. Let's go for example 2 then. So let's switch that up here. So we've got percentage profit and loss. Let's clear that calculator. Okay, so let's just quickly define what this profit and loss means up the top here. So again, if you're taking this in your notes, okay, maybe a good idea just to highlight profit and loss and see if we know what those words mean. Well, financial terms, profit is if you make money, loss is if you lose money on a sale or something like that. So in this example, we've got Mr. Lofness, me, bought a car for £2,200 in 2014 and sold it 2 years later for £1,400. So part A, did he make a profit or did he make a loss? And part B, by how much? Okay. So, and we're going to add in a part C to that as well, which is express this as a percentage. Okay. So, hopefully you are ahead of me and you're working out if I've made a profit or a loss. Well, if I bought it for 2,200 and I sold it for 1,400, I have paid more than I made back for it. So that means I've made a loss. Okay, so that's the first thing we can highlight, is that we made a loss. Because if you bought it for 2,200 and you sold it for 1,400, you've sold it for more than you've sold it for less than you paid for it. Okay, in different examples you will usually make a loss sometimes, in other examples you will usually make a profit. For example, if you're a shop that's selling something, you kind of have to make a profit or your shop goes out of business. So pretty much everything that you buy from, say, a cash and carry or some sort of supplier, distributor, you will have to sell it for more than what you paid for it, and that's how you make a profit, and that's how your shop makes money. If it's something second hand, for example, if you've bought a car or clothes and then you go to sell them, you will probably make a loss on it, because why would someone pay more for a car that's just suddenly older and it's not as new and it's got more miles on it, or clothes which have been worn? You would rather pay more for them brand new out the shop than second hand, so you're going to make a loss on them. We'll see different examples and that will tie into the third topic in this video, but let's just proceed with this for now. Okay, so we've established we've made a loss. By how much? Simple calculation. If you've bought it for 2,200 and sold it for 1,400, you're going to have to find the difference between those two figures, which is 800. So we've made an £800 loss, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. We've sold it 2 years later. You're still getting some money back for it. You don't always have to aim to make a profit on everything. Some things you need to accept that you will make a loss. So we've made a loss of £800 on the car. Let's express this as a percentage. Now, again, that sentence is a little bit short of information. I should really write express this as a percentage of what you paid for it. Okay, so how much was our loss as a percentage? Well, our loss was 800, and what we originally paid was 2,200. And we know how to find a express one number as a percentage of another. We just make them a fraction and we multiply by 100%. Okay, again, let's let our calculator do the hard work. We could do some simplifying here. Let's cancel out these zeros. We've just got 8 out of 22 multiplied by 100. So we could just do that on here. So that will give us 4 over 11, which is, we're going to get a recurring decimal here. Okay, so we've got 0.3636 ... We're going to multiply that by 100%, which in other words is going to be 36.3636, so on, which is just going to, we'll just round that to 2 decimal place, which is just going to be 36.36%. So essentially, from the amount that we purchased it for, we've made a roughly 36% loss on that, and that's how we calculate percentage profit and loss. Okay, so time is getting on in this video, so let's just quickly go to the third and final bit, which is the newest National 5 material here, which is appreciation / depreciation. Okay, so what do those terms mean? Well, if something appreciates, it means that it increases in value over time. Now we've got over time in brackets there because if you've got something like the car in my previous example, yes, it's gone down in value, but some would argue that that's not really appreciated or depreciated. It's just got less expensive. And it is a bit of a murky territory, deciding if something has appreciated or depreciated, or if something's just gotten more or less expensive. For example, if something was in a sale in a shop, it means it's got less expensive, but that doesn't mean it's depreciated. Its price has dropped, but that's not quite the same as depreciation. Depreciation and appreciation tend to be determined by time. There's a time factor involved in there. So some obvious examples of things which increase in value over time, things like houses. Okay, unless there is a financial crash or something happens to the housing market, houses tend to go up in price every single year. Other things like vintage cars or artwork always tend to increase in value over time. Things that decrease in value, pretty much everything that you can buy will decrease in value. As soon as you've purchased it, it becomes less valuable, like what we were just speaking about, say clothes, or sort of normal cars, or just any kind of common goods. As soon as you've bought it, it's no longer brand new, so why would someone pay the same amount for it anymore? So it's depreciating over time, and every minute that passes, it will get less and less valuable as time goes on. Another good example is electronic goods. They depreciate very quickly, which you'll know if you have an iPhone or the brand new phone on the market. It feels like as soon as you've bought your new phone, within 3 weeks, the next new one's announced and your one is no longer the newest one, so it's depreciated significantly. Okay, so let's get down to business here and have an example. So I have taken the example of a piece of art. Okay, so a piece of art was sold at auction in 2013 for £600. It appreciated, so we need to know what that means, in value by 15% in year 1, 20% in year 2, and 10% in year 3. Calculate its value in 2016, i.e. 3 years later. Okay, so let's do this. Now, we will see in the next video, video 3 of the percentages series, that there is an easier and quicker way to do this sometimes, but we're going to do this the long, laborious, the heavy lifting way just to establish that we understand what is meant by these terms. Okay, so what is the heavy lifting way? Well, we're going to do it year by year. So if we've got year 1, okay, this is the start of our solution. You'll see why I've put these all in the same video, because essentially, if we just look at it year by year, it's just an increase/decrease question, which was the start of this video. So if it appreciated in value, we need to know that that means increase, okay? So if it's appreciated in value, it's increased in value, okay? So this is essentially a percentage increase question. So if it increases by 15%, it was £600. Let's find 15% of 600 and then add it on. Okay, how do we find 15% of 600? We do 600 divided by 100 times 15, multiplied by 15, sorry, which gives me £90. So then we add it on. So at the end of year 1, it's £600 plus £90. So at the end of year 1, it's worth £690. Excellent. Year 2. It then increases by, appreciates by 20%. So let's find 20%. Now, this is a bit you need to be careful. Not of 600, of £690, because that's how much it is at the end of year 1. So for year 2, we need to use the new up-to-date figures. So we need to find 20% of £690. Again, easy to do. Let's take our 690, divide by 100, multiply by 20, which gives me 138. So that means in year 2, it's increased by £138. So we take 690, add on 138, which is going to give me £828. Okay, so the end of year 2, it's now worth 828. So let's do year 3, the last year. Okay, finally it increases by 10% in year 3. So again, we're going to have to find 10% of 828. Now you can use a calculator for this, but as with the other ones, we probably could have managed without, so let's just try this without. If we're finding 10% of something, it's the same as just dividing by 10. So that's just going to be moving the figures one place to the right. So that's going to be 82.8 or £82.80. So for the last one, we're going to have 828 plus £82.80. Okay, to give us our final answer. If we add on the 2, that's going to be 830. Add on the 80 will be 910 with the 80 pence. So our final is going to be £910.80. Okay. Let's just check if we have answered the question. It says calculate its value in 2016. And this will be the value after 3 years. 3 years from 2013 will be 2016. So that is our final answer. Always be careful, do a little common sense check at the end. We're appreciating, which means it should be going up in value. So your final answer should be less than the greater than the initial amount. And also, always double check that the question is asking for the final value, its value in 2016, not by how much it's appreciated. If we wanted to know how much it's increased in value, we would need to take away the initial value, and we're going to see an example of that in the next video.